90,000 ships a year fit through the Strait of Malacca. The gap is not the problem. 25 meters of water is, and it is filling in. Every article about the Strait of Malacca quotes the same number. At its narrowest, the shipping lane is about 1.5 miles across, under 3 kilometers. It sounds like the whole story. The world's trade squeezing through a gap you could see across. It is the wrong number. Width is not what limits this place, and it never has been. Look down instead of across. Because the ships fit. About 90,000 vessels a year go through the Strait of Malacca. That is one, roughly every 6 minutes, around the clock, in both directions, including a quarter of all the oil that moves by sea. A lane 1.5 miles wide is not comfortable, but it is genuinely enough. Traffic is not the constraint here. Something else is doing the work. The seabed. The strait runs 800 kilometers between Sumatra and the Malay Peninsula, and the main channel through it is between about 25 and 27 meters deep. In places, it drops to 23. 25 meters sounds like a lot until you put a ship in it. A modern loaded tanker is not a boat sitting on the water. It is a wall of steel hanging underneath it, and here that wall comes very close to the mud. So there is a rule. Deep-draught vessels and the largest tankers must keep at least 3.5 meters of water between the bottom of the hull and the seabed at all times, right through the Malacca and Singapore Straits. 3.5 meters, about the height of a room. That is the entire margin between the world's largest ships and the floor of the strait, and it is not a suggestion. Every deep transit here is organized around preserving it. Now do the subtraction, because this is where the whole thing turns. 25 meters of water, minus 3.5 meters you are not allowed to use. What is left is the deepest a ship may sit, about 20.5 meters of draft. That is not a speed limit or a traffic rule. It is a hard ceiling on the size of a hull, written by a seabed. And that number has a name, Malacca Max. It is a class of ship defined not by a shipyard or a flag or a canal authority, but by how much water there is above the mud south of Malaysia. Ships are described as Malacca Max, the way they are described as Panamax or Suez Max. Somewhere in the world right now, a hull is being designed to that number. Here is what that does. If you want to carry more and you cannot go deeper, you go wider and longer. So the largest tankers in this trade are not scaled-up versions of smaller ones. They are flattened. Beam and length grow while draft stays pinned, and a hull built that way is stuck with it. You cannot load a Malacca Max deeper somewhere else and get the capacity back. The proportions of the biggest ships on Earth are a direct print of a sandbank they will never touch. Except 3.5 meters is not really 3.5 meters. A moving ship sits lower than a stationary one. Water forced through the gap between the hull and the seabed accelerates, pressure drops, and the whole vessel settles deeper into the water. It is called squat. It gets serious when the water is less than about 1.5 times the draft, and it gets worse with speed. Read that again because the timing is cruel. Squat becomes significant precisely when the water is shallow relative to the ship, which is the definition of this strait, and it gets worse the faster you go. The margin is eaten by the act of using it. A captain who speeds up to keep a schedule is in the most literal sense lowering their ship toward the bottom. The only reliable fix is to slow down, in a waterway with a ship every 6 minutes. Swell takes its share too. A ship in a seaway does not hold a constant height above the seabed. It rises and falls, and the bottom of that motion is what matters. So a deep transit is not planned once. Draft, squat, and swell are worked out hour by hour so that 3.5 meters survives the worst moment, not the average one. And then there is one Fathom Bank off Port Klang. Here the navigable water collapses to a few miles of dredged channel with shoals on either side. The name is the point. Somebody once measured this and found 1 fathom, which is 6 feet. The lane through it is not a natural feature. It exists because it is dredged, surveyed, and charted over and over. Every number on the chart is a maintained number. Stop maintaining it, and it stops being a lane. Because the strait is silting up. The rivers of Sumatra in the Malay Peninsula have been carrying sediment into it for as long as they have existed, and they have not stopped. So the number that decides the size of the world's tankers is not a constant and never was. It is a running balance between what the rivers put in and what the dredgers take out, and somebody has to keep paying for the second half of that. Now the part that usually gets left out. There is another way round. 2, in fact. Indonesia has the Sunda Strait between Java and Sumatra, and further east the Lombok Strait. Lombok in particular is deep, genuinely deep, hundreds of meters through the channel, which is why submarines use it and why the largest ships in the world can pass through it fully loaded. Every constraint we have just described simply does not apply there. So why does nobody use it? Distance. Going via Sunda adds about 1,086 nautical miles. Going via Lombok adds 2,488 and close to 98 hours of sailing. 3 to 5 extra days, more fuel, and you lose Singapore, which is where ships refuel. One diverted voyage costs somewhere in the region of $100,000 to $200,000. And the traffic boats. Sunda carries roughly 2.4% of Malacca's volume. Lombok takes about 12,800 vessels a year, 35 a day, against Malacca's 90,000. So the deep route, the one with no draft problem at all, moves a small fraction of the shallow one. Estimates for moving the whole flow east run from $84 to $250 billion a year in extra shipping cost. The alternatives are real. They are just expensive. Which is the thing worth taking away. Malacca is not irreplaceable because there is no way around it. There is. It is irreplaceable because the fleet was built to fit it. 20.5 meters of draft is designed into steel that will be afloat for another 30 years. Deepen the strait tomorrow and the ships would still be the wrong shape. The choke point did not restrict the fleet, it drew it. If you want more of these, the choke points, the systems, the things quietly holding everything up, subscribe. New video every week. And if this was worth your time, hit like. It genuinely helps.